Good morning, everyone. It is 11 o'clock, so it's time for today's 50 Days to 50 conversation. I am bringing on someone who I first met because of Daily Dose, and then she had me on her podcast, and now I'm having her back. So there's a lot of sort of Red Rover happening between Larendee Roos and me, but let's bring her right to the screen. Hello, Larendee. How are you?
Good morning, Dana. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm well too, thanks. It's really nice to see you again.
You too. And this is so fun. Thank you for inviting me. And it's such a great season of the year to be doing this, right?
Yeah, it has been. It's been a little bonkers on my side, I'm not gonna lie, but I have absolutely enjoyed each of these conversations because, as I keep saying, I'm hearing some really important through lines, but they're all coming from the lens of an individual person. So
Mm.
I think that they are resonating for my audience as much as they're resonating for me, which is really the purpose behind doing it, in addition to giving me the opportunity to think about how I want to move into this next decade with
Mm.
a little more intentionality. So I am thrilled to have you here, and I very much look forward to your answers. So let's get right started. That was a funny way to say that, but you know what I mean. Let's get started. um, what are one or two things that you knew before you turned 50 that have served you really well since turning 50?
What did I know before? Well, life had handed me plenty of lessons and plenty of blessings
Mhm.
as I was preparing to turn 50 in ways I certainly wouldn't have expected when I was 20. But there was one thing that I knew, I think I kind of picked up this wisdom when I was about 45, that you can't want more for people than they want for themselves. And this came out of a lot of work that our family was doing. One of the things we have in common is our family recovery journey.
Mhm.
And so our own family experience, and then being in rooms of recovery, 12 steps, smart recovery, a lot of different modalities, I really was became aware that everyone's journey is personal
Mhm.
and we can't want more for them than they want for themselves. Now, post 50, what I figured out was that why would I think I knew what was best for them?
Oh.
And why would I think that I should have any idea about what that looked like? So,
Mm.
so that was a post lesson 50 or post 50 lesson that took me, probably 10 years to really come to. So,
Boy, I imagine that you will agree with me that this must be a personality trait that you have too. You're a fixer.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
And
there's no mistake
yeah,
how I ended up in the work that I ended up in,
yeah.
right? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's as with so many of our qualities, maybe all of them, it's a positive and a negative.
Mhm.
I mean, to be a fixer means that you can stay calm in a moment of crisis, and that you are looking out for other people, and that you um have a sense of how could these various things play out. You can a little bit see down the path, maybe further than someone who is not a
Mm.
fixer, but the downside to it is you're quite certain you know the answer, and
Mhm.
we can't know the answer for anybody. When you said you can't want more for someone than they want for themselves, I felt that sort of push through me, because wow, did I want Maz to stop drinking. I wanted that so hard. It was kind of excruciating. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until he wanted it that the needle moved at all. And of course it wasn't. Like, you should not have to learn that lesson. That should be
Sure.
pretty self-evident.
Sure. I think it's as with many things I've just experienced in my life, um, there's just a lot that we're not taught in grade school, junior high, high school, or university. And at the same time, life is school. So we
Yes.
can just give ourselves a breath that
Yeah.
way for sure.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so you've addressed this a little bit, but perhaps you have more to say about that point, or perhaps you have other points to discuss. What are things that you know now, post 50, that you wish you could go back and teach to your younger self, wherever you want to put your younger self?
Right. Well, I would say that a couple of things I've shared with you before. I think that I have a very dear friend, Dave Brisbane, who's a minister for a faith community that especially works with people in addiction or families who recovery from addiction is their journey. And he always says, and he wrote this in his book, he wrote this brilliant book called The Fifth Way.
Mm,
It's been rewritten a few times, but I always go back to the original document because I think it's just brilliant. And he said, the good news is there's no bad news. And I added on to that, the universe is conspiring to help me. So I I think that, and then also I would have my younger self, if my younger self had known that who you are today is part of your becoming and will be so helpful for you
mm.
when you reach these next milestones 30, 40, 50, 60, which little secret, Dana, in February, I'm going to be the big 60.
Oh,
So it's a it's another one of those decade moments for me
mm,
as well. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting
yeah.
on all of this for sure.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. I have to put this note up from my mom. There are people that recognize and gravitate to fixers. Without them, people could just flounder. The problem is when we might imagine we can fix them, but we have to be a starting point for some people. That might be true. I think where it gets challenging for me, I'll just keep it just about me, is how far do you provide some guidance and counsel if someone's looking for it before you say, but really that's as far as I can go.
Mhm,
You have to pick this up for yourself, because I think there's almost an intoxication to feeling like, oh, I'm really fixing this person.
mhm,
It's a very appealing place to be, for many of us.
mhm. Well, so that's a whole 3-day seminar, Dana.
I bet it's true.
However, one thing that was really helpful for me, and I did this in my 50s, is I had, worked for a large corporation for
Mhm.
almost, for 18 years as the operations manager for most of that. And then the last 5 years, I worked as the executive vice president of operations, acquisitions, and mergers, investor relations. And so there was always a lot of mentoring, leading. Um, Kind of interesting. Another side note, Bob Iger was called back to Disney.
Mhm.
That's in the news recently. And Disney is one of my favorite companies to study. When I was creating culture for that company, I studied Disney because I was given the task and assignment to create our culture, and I
Mm,
didn't know what to do. So I decided to study the greats. And one of the things that Bob Iger said this week in the news was that we're going to continue to hunker down, but the most important thing we're going to do is get back to creativity. And
mm,
so I really appreciate your mother's comment because she's so right. And one of the things that I did in my 50s is I did go back to school and get my ordained ministerial degree. And that degree, it's actually an ordained ministerial counselor. So it's more in counseling than theology. I felt like when I went to university the first time, I did the theology because I studied in psychology, biblical studies, music. So I felt like I had a good foundation that has continued to carry me. But this time I really wanted to understand this counseling piece. And I had the really good fortune of studying with Pathways of Light Ministerial College, which really comes from this one truth that we both have something to offer, even if it seems like you're the one with the prevailing need, Dana.
mm,
We both have something to give to one another, and we walk shoulder to shoulder. And
mm,
my role in that helping role is to facilitate, but not to instruct.
mhm,
Because, and I knew this for years, I used to say everything you need to know is in your head, your heart, and your hands. long before I came to this, school is probably one of the things that attracted me to it. So I'm not here to fix anyone, but I am really, really privileged and so honored that the universe at times will bring people into my vortex that I can walk beside, and the experiences that I've had, the thousands of hours of education that I've had, there might be a tool or two that could facilitate their process, but it's
Mm.
always their process. There's nothing I can teach you. If it resonates with you, it's because it was always within you, and I just, kind of lit the flame a little bit. So, and can I just tell you how much easier that is to walk with people today when I'm not responsible for their help and their healing? I'm just privileged and honored to walk shoulder to shoulder, side by side, to facilitate whatever that looks like. It's a different paradigm.
Yeah. Let me ask you this because I'm not totally sure what your answer is going to be, interestingly. Um, how much of that philosophy applies to, say, parenting or spousal relations? And I don't mean when one spouse is in a real crisis, but just in general, how do you relate that outside of maybe sort of a professional or a close but not intimate relationship into an intimate relationship?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I love about your question and the way you framed it is that you came from a place of curiosity. And that's principle number one, whether I'm working as a professional or as a spouse or a parent or a sibling. I'm curious, right? And I don't assume that I know the answer at all. So brilliant, brava, brilliant demonstration of coming to relationships with curiosity. And I don't know, right? In
Yeah.
fact, one of the things that's one of my favorite adages is I don't know what anything means. And I hope I'm wrong about this.
Mm.
So this way it lets everybody off the hook. But back to your question of, um, what is that about? How do I show up? What am I supposed to do? So throughout this existence, we've kind of, I think, created roles for ourselves, responsibilities for ourselves. And for me, and I can only speak for myself, is where I really got myself in a state of crisis, and it was true crisis, was when I didn't own my role and then allow other people to own their roles.
Mm.
So we have 8 amazing grandchildren, and what's so incredible about being a grandparent is that it's somehow we finally figure that out, in addition to the fact that we're not the 24/7, 365 parents. There's that. But the thing is, I don't try to take on the role of my children as parents for their grandchildren. I know that I have a role, and that role is different. So I think being a grandparent has actually really helped enforce this for me.
Mm.
When it comes to my spouse, what's my role in the relationship? And I don't under overstep my role. I don't get outside of my role. And if I feel in a state of contention, one of the first questions I ask myself is, well, what's my role? What did I agree to do? What did we agree that was going to be my role? And then if it's changed, then we need to have a discussion. Let's have a discussion about how that role changed, or how I think that role needs to change, or how you think that role needs to change. When
Mm.
it comes to parenting, and Dana, I'm the proud mother of 10 amazing
I
children
do know that.
who raised me, not the other way
I'm one of those mothers too.
around. So the thing with that is that our roles change over time, don't they?
Mhm.
So the role I have with my infant to my toddler to my teenager to my adult child, it changes, and it should change and morph over time. If it doesn't, there might be some things to address,
Mhm.
right? And I think one of the things as human beings is we don't like change.
Mhm.
We get very, and for a lot of reasons,
Mhm.
that we don't have time to talk about. But so I think for me also, one of the things, you talk about what's something that you would have told your younger self is be more flexible, because this life is going to require it. There are things that are going to happen to you that are going to be mind-blowing, exhilarating, inspiring, and fun. And there are things that are going to happen to you that are going to take you to your knees,
Yeah.
and everything in between. And so be flexible, and remember too, in that fixer mode, don't always be trying to fix yourself either. Love yourself first,
Mm.
and then gently guide yourself and gently allow the universe to guide and show you what the next step is for you.
That's lovely. Okay, one more question, and you've a little bit touched on this too, so you may again want to expand on that or tell me something else. What have been some of the most joyful aspects of turning 50 and beyond?
Hmm. Well, I already spoke about my grandchildren, and I actually was a grandmother at 40, unexpected, but such a beautiful, rich blessing.
Yep.
Um, Actually, it was a couple years before 40,
Okay.
um, when I was first a grandparent, but certainly well into my 50s, then there were more grandchildren coming. And so that's been exhilarating. What's also been really rewarding and joyful is that I embrace change and risk more than I ever did. And that's just for me personally. I know some people become more risk adverse, but I guess with my life experience and everything that I've gone through, I have a different perspective on that, on being willing to take risks, being more curious it's probably just more curious.
Mm.
That has been so joyful. A big pivot for me that just happened within the last year, just as I'm going into my 60s, is I'm stepping away from business consulting, and I'm not doing that anymore.
Wow.
I made the decision. I wanted to simplify my life. I wanted to spend more time with my grandchildren and my children. And so I was running 3 businesses at the time, and one of my core values is connection, and connection with my family. And when I stepped back and I went back to my hierarchy of values and said, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I congruent? And the answer was no, because there wasn't enough time.
Mhm.
And so after 20 years of business consulting, I haven't taken on any new clients. The ones that are with me are walking with me for reasons beyond business consulting. So I'll continue to work with them. And other than that, I'm focusing on the Miracle Activation Center, which is a support for executives and ministers who want some help in just support.
Mhm.
We call it unprogrammed programming. And then my real estate development, where I'm picking back up some self storage development, and then doing some multifamily development, which is all there was purpose to that. So giving myself more breathing room as I go into my 60s, and that happened all in my 50s. I allowed that to be. So
Well, I feel like for most people, what you've said is giving you more breathing room is still like about 3 times more work than many of us do. But it's all relative. Some people have the
right.
capacity to take on an incredible amount, and so if you feel like you're creating space, then that's really all that matters.
Well, and I always tell my girlfriend I don't play tennis. So and I don't golf.
Yep. Yeah.
So this is how I fill my time.
Yeah.
It's different
Yep.
than, so, just kind of from a humorous perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Well, gosh, Larendee, I knew that this would be a insightful conversation. You have an extraordinary ability to just lower the like the anxiety meter. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
didn't have any anxiety coming into this, but I operate, I think, at a fairly high buzz.
mm,
And when I'm with you, everything just sort of says, just be. It's a
mm.
really lovely place for me to reside, and I've now gotten to do it 3 times. So thank you for indulging me in this and sharing your insights into this funny thing called 50.
Absolutely. And Dana, I just want to leave you with a 50 birthday blessing.
Thank
You
you.
are such an incredible light in this world. And I just want to express so much gratitude and gratefulness. Thank you for saying yes, that you
Mm,
will be a light bearer and a truth bearer, because so many are needed. And so blessings for you as you move into your 50s and beyond. And I know that you will have all the support and from the universe, from the angels that surround you in the physical, in the metaphysical, to help you do the work that you so desire and
mm.
want to do. So blessings for you.
Thank you.
Ah,
That's,
you're
um,
welcome.
that's extraordinary.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Absolutely.
Everyone else, I will see you tomorrow. Larendee, thank you.
Have
Truly.
a blessed day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.